What were they drinking in Hobbiton? Pinot. Well, probably. Maybe. I think I can do better. Hey, I'm Harrison. I'm your Mid Earth Somm. Let's drink like hobbits. So, J.R.R. Tolkien tells us that the Shire is located right near Birmingham, where he grew up. So, if we were to superimpose a map of Europe over Middle Earth using the middle of South England as the Shire, we can see that that puts Hobbiton just around the 52nd parallel. That puts us just out of the 30 to 50 degree sweet spot for growing wine grapes. In other words, a shit place to grow wine. So we know that we have... Now I know what you're thinking. Harrison, why don't you just watch the movies? That's because the movies are a fictional interpretation shot in New Zealand, whereas The Lord of the Rings is a translation by Professor Tolkien of the historical document, the Red Book of Westmarch, which some scholars believe Elfwine himself acquired when he became the only mortal man to sail through the Straitway to Tol Eressëa, the tome that we all know and love today. Okay, so we're right between two mountain ranges here in the Shire, the Misty Mountains to the east and the Arid Lewin to the west. And those would provide some protection through the rain shadow effect, kind of like what we see in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, though it would not provide protection from the dark shadow of Mordor, which spreads across the land. Just like in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. All right, next we've got the Brandywine River. And yes, I know, brandy wine has to do something with wine, right? No, it does not. It's an entomological thing. It's a translation of a translation. I'll get to it in another video. Cutting right through the middle of the Shire, providing irrigation and, given the cooler climate, most likely allowing the sun to reflect upwards to provide much-needed warmth for the grapes to fully ripen. So I'm thinking Alsace in France. I'm thinking Touraine, the Rheinhessen. I'm thinking... What was Aragorn doing around the Shire for like 87 years? We all know that, for a time he had donned the name of a Throngil and served in Rohan under Thengel and in Gondor under Ecthelion. But what was he doing around the Shire for so long? In the world of wine, as we all know, soil is everything. Each soil has classic varieties associated with it. So, based on the geographic features that we just discussed, Karen Wynne Fonstad, in her seminal work, The Atlas of Middle Earth, deduces that the environs of Hobbiton must have been granite-based soils. So when I hear granite, I think Gamay. I'm thinking Syrah. She notes that in the downs on either side to the east and the west, most likely there were chalk-based soils, so I'm thinking maybe Chardonnay. She says that in the Weather Hills near Bree, we have a flinty limestone soil. So when I hear limestone, I'm thinking Cab Franc, Sauv Blanc, Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris. But the real question is, does Bree really even count as the Shire? I mean, there's definitely a sizable population of hobbits, though not all of them live in hobbit holes. In fact, a lot of them live in houses, and they live and work alongside the big folk, and it's probably definitely inferred that there's some weird sex stuff going on between. Okay, let's put it all together. We have a cold climate above the 50th parallel. We have maritime influence with potentially some limited rain shadow protection. We have granite, chalk, flint, and limestone soils. What does this sound like to me? Like I said, closest parallel is probably Oregon's Willamette Valley, though something like that more with the soils similar to Touraine or Beaujolais in France. I mean, hobbits like to get absolutely fucking smashed. They basically all live in wine cellars anyway, and no one has a real job. Just like the Willamette Valley in Oregon. I think the hobbits are absolutely fucking up their Mondays with something that tastes a whole lot like Thierry Richoux's Iron Sea. This is a cold climate Pinot Noir that's dark fruited, high ABV, long lived, and absolutely delicious. This is the answer. Don't debate me. I have a sword. It's a replica sword, but it's still very sharp. Oh, okay. But what about Old Winyards? Now, for those of you not following, Old Winyards is literally the only wine that Tolkien mentions in the Shire by name. Were there others? Probably. Were they worth naming? Apparently not. All right. The famous Old Winyards, the Casamigos of Hobbiton winemaking. It's described as a strong red wine that apparently shows astronomical aging potential, given that Bilbo's bottles were laid down when he was like 6, according to film canon. And at the time of their mention, he's about to turn 111. So that's a 105-year-old bottle of wine. I mean, is that still good? Might just be vinegar. Apparently not, though, because Frodo and his polycule polish off the last bottle before he moves to Crickhollow in chapter 3 of the book. And they said it was tasty! So we know that Old Winyards comes from the South Farthing. Now, if you're not following, the Shire is divided into castral units known as farthings. This one, the South Farthing, is in the south. Which is perfect! We have the influence of the brandy wine. Again, nothing to do with wine or brandy. We'll get to that later. And, more importantly, the arid Lewin Range is back in action this far south to help provide essential protection from wind and inclement weather. Now, the most famous grape to be grown in granite soils that's also cold weather friendly is Gamay, seen most famously in the easy-drinking, fruity red wines of Beaujolais. Gamay is not known for its excellent aging potential, definitely not 105 years, which makes me probably think that the more long-lived bottlings of Old Winyard come from the plantings of Pinot Noir from more desirable sites within the vineyard or vineyards under the Old Winyards domain. It wouldn't surprise me if, given Hobbits' love for things that grow and good food, the Old Winyards team were dutiful in hand-harvesting in successive tries, picking the berries at optimal ripeness to allow for a more robust wine capable of decades of aging. Of course, even with all that careful selection, these grapes are being grown in a cool climate above the 50th parallel optimal for winemaking, so they'll have quite a bit of acidity that will lend to a long lifespan and warrant cellaring. Now, there's no way to know how sophisticated a vignerons Hobbits are, but given their proximity to the old kingdom of Arnor and Cardolan, after that, I'd like to believe that some Númenórean winemaking knowledge filtered their way. If so, they'd most likely be giving those grapes a cold soak on the grape skins to give more color and strength. They might be punching down those skins to extract more color and tannin as the wine ferments. So basically, punching down is when the mass of grape skins floats to the top of the fermenting barrel and the winemakers grab a long stick and, like, not today, Satan, it back to the bottom of the liquid. It helps, somehow. They may even be draining some of the juice in order to lower the ratio of grape juice to skins to allow for more concentration and power. Above all else, vignerons desire power. It's safe to assume that Hobbit winemakers are fermenting and aging in barrels given the amount of trees in the region, which would help provide the necessary tannins to help give the wine longevity. And of course, given that Hobbits live in holes, it's safe to assume that there's plenty of temperate cellar space to allow for the wine to age in barrel before bottling. All these factors together, I could see Old Winyards producing a wine coming out of the barrel with high acidity and robust tannins that would definitely warrant a few years to chill and bottle before accessing, and could potentially be as long-lived as Bilbo Baggins. But still probably taste super dull because a significant portion of those 105-year-old bottles would have oxidized and evaporated. It probably looked brown. It probably tasted brown. But these little alcoholics lapped it up. Older isn't always better, kids. Drink your wine in a reasonable amount of time. Now, if they were good business hobbits, I'd assume that Old Winyards would be releasing their Gamay as an everyday drinking sort of wine, possibly doing a field blend of Gamay and Pinot Noir, like what we see with Bourgogne Passetoutgrain. If they're draining that juice from the barrel early to concentrate the ratio of skins to juice, they'd even have an awesome rosé for the summer months. Of course, I could be wrong about all this, and it could all just be bad, and the hobbits don't know anything about winemaking at all, and it's actually super weak, and they have no alcohol tolerance because they're small, and I'm just a fucking moron. Nah, I nailed it.